Call to order the Historic Preservation Board meeting for June 1st, 2021. First item up would be roll call. Mr. Simmons?
Jason, can you hear us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call. Michael Hill,
Here.
now Elizabeth Hawk indicated she wouldn't be able to make it tonight. Nicole Nesberg,
Here.
Elizabeth Hausauer, Danielle Massey, Kyra Lucas,
Present.
Michelle Hazen, Bill Warner,
Here.
Jay Reeves.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Next item up would be the adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe we would want to suggest that there's a information item. That's the absolute last item on the agenda. And staff is present in the auditorium, I believe, to make that presentation. So we were suggesting that you could move that up to the beginning to get that out of the way if it's your choosing.
Okay. Is that acceptable? No?
Yes, approve the revision to the adoption of the agenda.
Okay. Who seconded it?
I did. Second.
Okay, you're okay with that too? Yes, Mr. Simmons, let's do that. Okay, we have a motion and a second, therefore, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The announcement, Mr. Simmons.
Okay. Section 30-3.5 of the Land Development Code establishes the Historic Preservation Board, including its composition and duties and authority. The Historic Preservation Board procedures are set forth in Section 30-4.28G of the Land Development Code. Appeals of Historic Preservation Board decisions are to the hearing officer and must be filed within 30 calendar days of the effective date of the board decision at issue. The appeal procedure is specified in Section 30-3.58C of the Land Development Code.
Okay. Next item up would be the approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, who was the seconder?
Michael Hill.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to old business, Mr. Simmons.
No, we didn't do that.
Oh, we're going to do the presentation. Sorry about that.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I believe the next item will be the information item. Dangerous building designation by code enforcement at 315 Northwest 4th Place. And I believe staff is present to make a presentation.
Good.
I'll start, this is not for the entire property. There are multiple structures in this property. This is just for this one house.
Okay.
So I'll start with that before y'all want to choke me for it. We did an inspection on this house one of our officers did about 2 weeks ago. And then I was called back out last Thursday to look at it again. And we did a dangerous building. If you'll, I don't know if she can zoom in on the photos there. On the left side of the house, the foundation is actually sitting on the floor, on the ground. And it's literally, I wouldn't go in the house with more than just myself and one other person, and then did not take any photos inside because the building was not safe enough to walk in. So we deemed it a dangerous building. We met with the owner last Thursday, and I spoke to him this morning. He's aware of it, and just that way demolition is probably gonna be his only choice. And like, in this, what looks like a business card or a deck of cards is actually the inside of the house. And if you're inside, you can actually see straight out of the house.
Yeah.
And it takes about an 18-inch dive between the front to the back of the house. So we deemed it a dangerous building. He's gonna have to do a demolition, so that way he doesn't have to do the 90-day hold on something that doesn't need to be there anymore. And unfortunately, he did put a new roof on it a couple of years ago, but if you'll back up to one of the photos, I believe you'll see sorry, I put the PowerPoint in the wrong location earlier, so. You can even see in this photo, you can see where the roof is starting to take a sag. It's not near as obvious as the actual on site, so. Our information to let y'all know when it comes before the historic preservation for a demolition, not to put a 90-day hold on it. And he's willing to do the demo instead of the city forking out the money to do it.
Okay.
All right.
And that is it, unless you got questions.
Okay. Any board comment or question? Okay. Any comments from the public?
No, sir, no public comment at this time.
Okay. All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve the request for demolition.
Is that with the 90-day delay or waiving?
No, this is waiving the 90-day delay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second, Nicole Nesberg.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I will say,
I-
if there are no members on the Zoom call, and I believe that's the case, we don't have to do a roll call vote for every item. You can do just vote all at once.
Okay.
Do you want to do a roll call or just a regular vote?
We'll just do regular for this one. Okay. All those in favor of the motion as stated?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. One objection.
I probably should do roll call.
Thank you.
then. Probably should do it so that the nay is identified.
Well,
I don't think there would be.
I don't think it's controversial, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we're doing that so we don't have to do the Zoom call.
okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is old business.
Yep.
Petition HP 21-25, Carrie Huffman, Florida House Corporation of Alpha Phi, agent for Michelle Ardern, Phi Sigma Sigma Incorporated owner. Certificate of appropriateness to construct a sorority house with a request for modification of the front building placement line located at 505 and 517 Southwest 10th Street. This building will be a non-contributing structure to the University Heights Historic District South, related to petitions HP 21-26, HP 21-27, and HP 21-28. I believe the applicants have a revised PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, Jason, is it, you want me to go ahead and share that?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chair. This is Craig Brazier with CHW. We are, as you remember, back from a couple of months ago. We're going to focus our presentation this evening on the revisions that we've made to the proposed structure. We've taken the comments and the direction that we received the last time we were here, and we've made some significant revisions to the building. And we want to walk you through those right now. So I'll give you a brief introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dart Davis, who will walk you through the specifics of the building revision. So again, this is the historic district outlined in purple here, the University Heights South Historic District. You can see down here in the lower right-hand corner the location of this site. Here's a closer look at the site. Again, it's bounded by Southwest 5th Avenue to the north, Southwest 10th Street to the west, Southwest 6th Avenue to the south, and then there is an alley that runs along the eastern boundary of the site. We are requesting to construct a new building that is architecturally compatible with the historic district and compatible with the historic preservation guidelines. So with that, here's a shot of the site plan. The new building will be placed at the northern end of the site. The two historic structures on the site will be located to the southern end. One will be facing 10th Street. The second will be facing 6th Avenue. So just to remind you the orientation of what is being proposed, the new structure will primarily face Southwest 10th Street as well. At this time, I'll let Mr. Davis take over and explain to you the revisions in the design. And Dart, you just let me know and I'll continue to advance the slides when you're ready.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So after our last presentation, we got some very good comments from the board, and we went back and took a hard look at the design of the project. And some of the changes we made, which a lot of it's going to be self-explanatory, but we primarily we're trying to come back with a more cohesive design, which was part of the discussion in the last meeting. Still using materials from the historic district, such as the brick, lap siding, some cedar shingles, asphalt shingle, or for siding and asphalt shingle on the roof. Another comment we had, can't remember exactly who made that comment about the massing of the building. The center gable was a pretty large element, as you would call it. It was stucco, and we scaled that down significantly to be not quite as intrusive, I think, to the streetscape, and come back with a basically a much smaller porch, and eliminated the second floor porch at that location. Some of the other changes we made, we still have the vinyl clad wood windows. We changed those to white instead of black. We still have the columns. We added back the board and batten shutters on the second floor on this elevation. And then we did add dormers on this elevation. We'll get into the garage later, but if we go ahead with demolition of the garage as we're recommending, we're going to salvage the brick from that building and make those basically the brick pavers on the three porches, and use it in the landscaping as borders as far as we can carry it before we run out of brick. Okay. This is the east elevation, which is on the alley side. That's primarily now going to be the lap siding, horizontal siding, canopy type porches over the three doors, which are similar to what you can find in the historic district. Again, the same type of windows. This is the north elevation facing Fifth Avenue, and you can see how we've transitioned from the brick on 10th Street to primarily siding, on this elevation. And this is the opposite elevation on the south, very similar design, as you can see on that side of the building. These are some rendered elevations of what you basically just saw. It has maybe a little more detail, less sketchy, so you can kind of visualize more about what the building would look like as far as proportions and heights and those kind of things. And again, this is kind of a view from the corner of 10th Street and 5th Avenue, which shows kind of the porch, how it transitions around the corner on 5th Avenue.
So that is a summary of the changes that we made from the previous building design. And I think a lot of the major points that we were trying to hit on there was the simplicity of the elements that we were incorporating. Previously, there was comments made that we were trying to bring too much in from the surrounding historic district, so it was simplified. Obviously, one of the biggest changes is that the front facade is now predominantly brick in order to unify that facade. Another element I think that is important is that working with city staff, we were able to provide a more cohesive front elevation because of their interpretation of the compatibility standards, and that the compatibility standards wouldn't apply. So we didn't have to try to make this look so distinctly like 3 separate buildings, which was leading to a lot of that in the previous design. So we were able to give it a much more uniform look. But those were some of the major, and then some of the major comments and directions that we heard and incorporated from our last public hearing. And with that, staff is still recommending approval. We would ask that you agree with your professional staff and recommend approval of this new construction. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have some comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, regard to the shutters, couldn't really tell from the rendered elevation. Are they proportional to the actual window?
Yes, they should be proportional to the windows. That was particularly interesting. We get that done correctly, so we should be drawn correctly there, but it will definitely be correct when we do the construction documents. But it should be correct on the rendering.
Okay, and what is the proposed window material?
It's the vinyl clad wood window.
Okay. And the gable material?
The gable is brick on 10th Street.
Already on the sides.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask the applicant. So, my first thing I want to say is, first, this rendering looks great. I love the incorporation of the brick. It fits well into the just into the neighborhood, and I want to tell you guys thank you so much for showing us that. I really appreciate that. But I just have a couple questions I'd like to ask you guys. My first question is this. Now, I understand completely about moving the structures, and that's understandable. Granted, the sorority house needs to come, and I'm not saying I don't oppose it, but this garage that we've been talking about, do we really have to demo this garage? I mean, it seems like that, we have the abilities here to move 2 houses, but we can't move this little garage, or we can't maybe repurpose this project or structure to basically be incorporated into the design. Because, I mean, this garage has a master site file, and I personally think that, demolition, unless it's a dangerous structure, it just shouldn't be added. It shouldn't be approved for demolition because, I mean, the applicant, in my opinion, I think possesses the capabilities to repurpose that building or reuse it in one way, shape, or form. I just think a demolition is completely outrageous. My other question I would like to ask is just kind of about the two properties. Now, granted, you have to move those properties to the south end, and you know that's okay. I completely understand that. But my problem is this: I'm under the impression that I'm pretty sure if that is done, it's going to cause damage to those properties. And so I'd like to ask the applicants, you know, if damage is caused to those buildings, you know, will you guys take care in fixing the damage and possibly even restoring the buildings? Because those houses are beautiful. I've driven by that property multiple times in the last couple of months, and you know, it's what's happening is going to be a big alteration to that neighborhood, and I would like to see those houses basically not be damaged and then slowly be decaying, and then, you know, we have a classic case of demolition by decay. So, yeah, those are my questions and concerns and my scrutinies.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Can we get the elevation of the house back up? I mean, of the building itself back up, the front elevation or perspective?
Sure, give me 1 second and I can share that back. Do you have a preference on which one?
Either straight on front or from the corner.
Okay. Just the one you were looking for?
I think one more of a corner view is what I was looking for, like the computer rendering that you had in there.
Okay.
That's good right there. All right. One of the things I'm looking at is where you have the two porches on the front of the house. On the corners, the span for those porches is way too much for it to be wood columns visually. And it has kind of the aesthetic of looking at a carport, which I'm sure that's not your intention. My question is, could the two big columns on the corner holding all that mass up above it be broken into 3 columns instead, at least on the front elevation? I think proportionally it would come closer to the proportions of what the front is and the front porch. But right now, having that big horizontal opening on both sides looks really out of character for this period of architecture. Yeah, that's just a thought. What do you think about
No,
that?
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on board with that thought.
And that's just a suggestion at this point, unless somebody wants to make it part of a motion. But and you could just simply shift the stairs over to one side or the other. But that is something that it strikes me architecturally as being very unusual on this and looking wrong for the period of architecture. And I just think it's something that probably needs to be addressed. Okay. Any other comments or?
I think I'm with Michael on, I think we just need confirmation that those buildings that you're moving are going to be refurbished or made sure that they're up to code standard. I have no doubt that you're already gonna do that. We just need confirmation. And just out of curiosity, what are you gonna do with those 2 buildings? Just curious.
Okay. Okay, would the applicant like to address any of these concerns? While we're in us comment.
Craig, do you want me to talk? Are you going to talk?
I was just gonna say that I would let Carrie address how the buildings would be used, and we had previously discussed, and we would, agree to returning the buildings after moving to their current condition. But with that, Carrie, I'll let you tell them how you plan to use those buildings.
Okay, great, thanks. Currently, we are, so in a typical sorority house, we have lots of common space. And so one of the uses, we'll put our guest room out there. It will be study space for the women, particularly the women who don't live in the building, for them to come either to have small meetings. Their executive council meetings will be held out there. They might have some new member meetings out there. Some craft space. Sororities are big in the crafting world here for various events throughout the year. So it's really just going to be multi-purpose functional space for them. In addition to having our, like I said, our guest room out there, we'll have a traveling consultant that lives with this chapter throughout the year. And then it could be that we end up using one of the facilities as actual rental space for more of our members for overflow. They're very excited about this house, and so they have an excess of people who want to live there, particularly in the first year. So that's really the intent of the buildings, and we absolutely would, make sure that they are functioning and usable for those purposes.
Okay.
I actually have one question for the applicant. Ms. Hoffman, I have a question for you in regards to the garage.
Sure.
Now, what is your guys' biggest obstacle about this garage? Because I mean, from what I've seen, this garage has a master site file. So I just want to ask: is that why do you guys need to demo this garage?
I'm so sorry for not answering your question earlier. I was unclear as to when we were supposed to respond. So Craig might jump in here as well because they've been dealing with this a little bit more. But my understanding is the following, that we've tried to donate this garage to several different people who've come to look at it. The latest one said that he didn't want it because there was some pest infestation in the top of it. But I think for us, the main thing, and Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're trying to get a certain amount of space for the stormwater drainage system. And so it wasn't fitting in well with the required number of parking spots we needed, in addition to the land space that we needed to create those systems. But I am not the expert, so Craig, please correct me if any of that is incorrect.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that is the main driving factor is providing underground stormwater, and that does require undisturbed space above. So while that is the main thing, we also did detail, and the staff report details the consistency with the criteria for removal. And if you look at this garage, it is in poor condition. We have continued to try to find a new home for it since their first public hearing. We've had a few other people come and look at it, and as Ms. Huffman stated, that the condition and the damage is just not worth it to move. And as you mentioned, with the two primary structures on site, I mean, let's not forget, this is an accessory structure. It's kind of buried in the site on the alley. The primary structures, moving them, the damage that would be caused from that, we kind of understand the damage that would be caused to this already, damaged structure.
Okay.
So that we have tried, we wanted to find a new home for it within the district, but that didn't work out. We are also committed to using the materials, as Mr. Davis mentioned earlier in his presentation about the building. We would like to repurpose some of the materials that are still usable, and that's mostly going to be the brick, because the wood beams inside, as you've heard, are quite termite damaged. So with that, and I also have a slide that can demonstrate when you work your way around the block, you don't know the garage is there until you really get down to the southern end. So there's only a couple of view sheds where you see the garage. And then with the relocation of the buildings to the southern end, I don't really know how much of a contributing nature it's going to have or currently has to the historic district. So, I mean, obviously that's why we're putting the importance on the primary buildings and keeping them not even in the district, but even on the same site. And in the order of priority, they far outweighed the compromised garage structure. So that's where our main efforts have been focused.
Okay. Thank you so much for your answers. I appreciate that.
Okay. Excuse me?
Was this the property that had the heritage on it?
Yeah, it was.
So I've had two concerns that I was wondering if you could address. The first being, at our last meeting, we were informed that there were some larger, older trees on the property that are being taken out. Has there been any thought into relocating those as well, or any news on that front?
No, the site plan that we showed is still the site plan. In order to accomplish everything else that we're trying to do here with the saving of the two primary structures. I will say that we did reach out to an interested party, and we looked at relocating one of the primary structures off-site that would have allowed us then to the tree. And then the more we found out, we learned that home would be leaving the historic district and not even going to another historic district. It would be going, out of the historic district. And it was our understanding, and from our communications with this board and with city staff, that the primary focus is to keep the primary contributing structures in the district. And so that was the decision that was made, was to preserve the homes on the site as opposed to relocating one, or coming back to you and ask to relocate one out of the historic district in order to save the tree. Because as you know, the city code allows us to remove and mitigate for the trees, and we'll be doing that in accordance with code.
Okay. I'm still concerned about the entire scale of this project in general for the neighborhood.
Yeah,
I think it's way too big.
same here. It's just,
And they're already gonna have overflow problems as it is.
imagine the impact. You're gonna have like 50 plus people on a half-acre lot. It's like it's gonna.
It's happening all over the neighborhood.
Well, I know it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Apartments are worse, they're more.
I know they are. I know, and then that's just what the problem is here. Is that like the impact to the local infrastructure is going to be another problem, which I know we can't address that because
Yeah, no, we can't.
that's not our thing. But it's still something that we need. That we as the board of this department need to think about. Because it's like, well,
Well,
our
they
action.
think about it, but if they meet guidelines, they meet guidelines. That's what we're here for.
The density is evolving, there's not, unfortunately,
Then
it's changing.
yeah, and so I mean,
What we're trying to do is preserve as many structures as we can to go along with that.
yeah, I'm just worried because it seems like the way this is going, it's like we're going to lose this district in the next 20 years. We'll see.
Okay. Any more questions for the developer?
Yeah, I'd like to come back to getting a response in regard to the middle column at the flanking porches. Is that a problem?
Dart, do you mind addressing that question?
Yes, I'll address that. Yeah, that was one of our studies, was to do that, because, I agree, looks like it looked pretty wide span there. I think what would look better from our perspective was if we did double columns in the location where we have columns, as opposed to putting a center column. In other words, you can visualize maybe a 2 to 3 foot space between double columns on the front. That would reduce that space in the middle. Something about having a column in the very center, not real appealing to me, but I think if we did double columns, that would look like that.
Yeah, if you do double columns on the corner, I think
Yeah,
that's
I go for
acceptable as well. That was gonna be my next suggestion anyway, so. I think that
I think
would,
that was a good suggestion to deal with that, so.
okay. I think that would solve the visual issue. The thing is, if you do it on the front side, double columns, you're gonna have to carry that around the side too.
Right.
Right, okay, I'm good with that. Okay, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Any other questions or issues? Are we ready for a motion then?
Ready. Move to approve
Chairman.
Excuse me.
we doing these one at a time?
What?
You have to,
Jason, go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, you have to open it up for public comment.
Correct, that's right. Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mr. Chair, no, there are no callers for this item at this time. Thanks.
Okay,
Okay, one at a time. Move to approve HP 21-00025 with the revision to paired columns at each porch, or the two porches.
Second, Nicole Nesberg.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Would you like to do this one roll call, Mr. Simmons?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so the roll call vote. Danielle Massey. I don't think I.
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg.
Aye.
Michael Hill.
No. No.
Bill Warner.
Aye.
Kyra Lucas.
Opposed.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 4-2.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Ready for the next?
No, he's got to do it.
This is 26 and 27.
Mr. Chairman, the next item, Register number 201017, which is petition HP-21-26. Carrie Huffman, Florida House Corporation of Alpha Phi, agent for Michelle Ardern, Phi Sigma Sigma Incorporated owner. Certificate of appropriateness to relocate a single-family dwelling from tax parcel 13157 to tax parcel 13156, located at 505 Southwest 10th Street. This building is a contributing structure to the University Heights Historic District South, related to HP 21-25, HP 21-27, and HP 21-28. I'm not, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe you saw staff's PowerPoint presentation for these other three petitions during the last meeting.
Okay,
So I can briefly go through them.
okay.
So okay, can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so for petition HP 21-26, this involves the relocation of a single-family dwelling onto an adjacent lot. Structure to be moved is a one-story single-family house that's approximately 1,777 square feet in total area. This structure was built circa 1912, according to the Florida Master Site File, and 1935, according to the Property Appraiser's Office. The structure is a one-story period house from the World World War I era, featuring pointed arched windows and diluted Gothic details as noted in the site file. There's wood frame construction with a continuous foundation, intersecting gable roof type, composition shingles, and paired double hung wood windows. The exterior fabric is brick. The zoning for the property is urban 5. The parcel that it's on is about 0.2 acres in land area. So this is the property in question. You see the front views for 2 of the pictures and the view of the back down here. So the proposed, you see the relocated house proposal to front on Southwest 6th Avenue, which is here to the right. Southwest 10th Street is down here. The house right now is sitting here. Now, the proposed placement of the house has to comply with the building placement standards for transect zones. At the proposed location, Southwest 6th Avenue is a local street with a building placement requirement of 15 feet minimum and 20 feet maximum from the curb. As shown on sheet A0.3, the placement on the Southwest 6th Avenue side may be greater than the 20-foot minimum as it's shown. So staff had suggested that the board may want to consider a modification of the existing zoning requirement for the building placement along Southwest 6th Avenue. The applicants may want to weigh in on that as well.
Jason, I can speak to that now if you want.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we were asking for that extra flexibility to remind you from our full presentation, because the attempt is to save existing trees that are currently in the landscape strip along the roadways, and that goes around both 6th Ave and on 10th Street as well. So our building placement was a little greater than what's required by the transect zone, but we wanted to reduce the chance of impacting the existing trees. And there was a number of those which are live oak trees. And so that was the driving factor behind that request. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome. So here, the house is compatible in scale, obviously, with the University Heights neighborhood. The proposed relocation is of such a short distance that the general setting of the house will only change in terms of its relationship with Southwest 10th Street, since it's proposed to be placed adjacent to Southwest 6th Avenue. The structure is located on a property that's part of a proposed new sorority house development, which, as you know, is under consideration here tonight and has been reviewed. Care must be taken during the moving process to ensure that the house retains those features that convey its architectural values and retain integrity of design, workmanship, and feeling. With care, the house should be able to be shifted to the proposed location on the current property without significant damage to its physical integrity. And then the house would be shifting to the south of its current location onto an adjacent tax parcel, thus remaining in the same neighborhood and the same historic district. So staff recommends approval of HP-21-26 with the following conditions: that the board consider a modification of the building placement requirement on the Southwest 6th Avenue side of the relocated house, and that care will be taken to ensure that all character-defining features are adequately protected from damage or loss during the moving process. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Comments or questions from the board? Okay, I think we're good with this one. Public comment, anything?
No, Mr. Chair, no callers for this item.
Okay, thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion on this item?
Move to approve HP 21-26
You're gonna address the 6 hours.
with staff recommendations.
Okay. Anybody else? Second?
Second. Nicole Nesberg?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Simmons?
Well, I sort of want to check with Craig. Do you have a specific number in mind for the modification, or does the board have a particular number?
I believe it was outlined in our application materials and in your staff present, or in your staff report, but I'll double check.
The requirement is 15 to 20 feet from, I believe, the back of curb.
I'm looking into that number right now, Jason, so. And I believe, Jason, we were recommending an additional 7 feet. And that would just be so, because of the way that that is measured, a certain percentage of the building has to be at that setback. And so there would actually be portions of the building in front of that closer to what's intended for the district, but in order to meet the way that it's measured, I believe we were looking for an additional 7 feet of flexibility.
Okay. What, no? So this would be a front setback of no more than 27 feet or 28 feet or something
Right.
like that?
Correct.
Well, 27 feet.
27, we'll go with 27 feet.
Okay. I think, and that's what I believe we had discussed previously.
So consider that an amendment to my motion.
Okay. And the second on this?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Okay.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Oppose.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Kyra Lucas,
Opposed.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-2. So the next item on the agenda, Register Item 201018, demolition of an auxiliary structure. Petition HP-21-27, Carrie Huffman, Florida House Corporation of Alpha Phi, agent for Michelle Arden, Phi Sigma Incorporated owner. Certificate of appropriateness to demolish an accessory garage located at 517 Southwest 10th Street. This building is a contributing structure to the University Heights Historic District South, related to HP 21-25, HP 21-26, and HP 21-28. In just a moment while I pull up the next PowerPoint. Okay, for petition HP 21-26, let's see, no, 27, excuse me. This project involves the demolition of the accessory structure located at 517 Southwest 10th Street. The structure to be bricks the primary material on the garage structure with 2 wooden garage doors. The accessory structure has a metal roof. The structure was built around 1912, but likely built in the early 20s. The structure to be moved or demolished is a 1-story garage structure that's approximately 441 square feet in total area. You see the structure is located on the property highlighted in yellow, which is approximately 0.42 acres in land area. So here are some pictures of the garage. You see a view from the side. You see a view of the garage doors on the front, and then some other views. Now, the contributing accessory structure is not described in the Florida Master Site file for the property. But this structure, this garage structure, is shown on the 1928 Sanborn map, and it's indicated as a garage. Bricks the primary building material on the garage structure with the 2 wooden garage doors. The roof type of, it's probably the intersecting gables. There's some with shingle roof. This shows the location of the garage relative to the 2 existing principal structures on the properties. And the applicants proposing the demolition of the accessory structure indicate that there are no unique qualities specific to the structure other than its connection to the existing principal structure at 517 Southwest 10th Street, which is the Tudor house. Applicants indicate the building's in poor condition and needs to be refurbished. However, the building does, plus the building does not fit within the fabric of the overall project, which includes the relocation of the principal structures at 505 and 517 Southwest 10th Street, the construction of the sorority house, and associated parking. The relocation of the structure has been considered, but the function of the building as a garage and the condition of the building does not make it feasible to move. So with the review items, the structure considered for demolition is a contributing structure to the University Heights Historic District South. Demolition of the resource would reduce the historic inventory in the neighborhood, which has a mix of historic structures and new construction that is compatible with the historic structures in the neighborhood. The structure is compatible in scale and character with a contributing principal structure on the property and the historic district, which reflect the architectural styles prevalent in Gainesville when the university located into the city and generated a corresponding housing need starting in 1905. The structure could be reproduced with a similar design, texture, materials, and details. The structure is not one of the last remaining examples of its type. This petition requests the demolition of the accessory structure, while the associated petitions involve relocation of the principal structures and the new construction of a sorority house. The structure is not in good condition, but it is not in danger of collapse. And the structure would need extensive renovation in order to be capable of earning a reasonable economic return on its value. The structure was built as a garage and would have little use with the proposed sorority house and parking area. So with that, staff recommends approval of HP 21-27 with the following condition: to salvage and reuse of historic materials that are in good condition. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Any questions of the board or comment? Okay. Any public comment?
And Mr. Chair, no comments at this time.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
Move to approve HP 2127.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second, Nicole?
Okay. Roll call, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And was that approval with the condition?
What are the conditions?
Just that right there, that statement, that's something.
Yeah. Salvage, yes, with the recommendation to salvage and reuse materials.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so that's with that condition.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The roll call vote. Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Oppose.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Kyra Lucas,
Opposed.
Danielle Massey,
Nay.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
You have a tie, Mr. Chairman, 3-3.
Okay.
Does that prevail?
And basically, a tie is a denial at this.
Project screwed.
Okay.
Shuts down the project.
Unless they can make other changes. Mr. Chairman, the next petition under old business, Legistar item 201019. Another relocation of a house within the same lot. Petition HP-21-28. Carrie Huffman, Florida House Corporation of Alpha Phi, agent for Michelle Arden, Phi Sigma Sigma Incorporated owner. Certificate of appropriateness to relocate a single-family dwelling within the same parcel, located at 517 Southwest 10th Street. This building is a contributing structure to the University Heights Historic District South, related to HP 21-25, 21-26, and 21-27. So on the screen, this involves the relocation of the two-story Tudor Revival period house that was a residence turned sorority and features asymmetric picturesque massing, cross gables with false half timbering, and the small pane multi-lighted window type characteristic of the revived 13th and 14th century English country house. The exterior fabric includes the half timbering brick and stucco with a lifetime Dutch lap asbestos roof surface. The house is about 2,800 square feet in total area. Now, there's a master site file for the house where it was determined to be a fine university example of a Tudor Revival period house. So yellow highlighted area is the location of the house. You see pictures of the front of the house where the notification sign is located, and up top here, and then a picture of the rear of the house in the back with the exterior stairs. The structures show up on the 1928 Sanborn map. You see there would be basically shifting the house from this location closer to the corner of Southwest 10th Street and Southwest 6th Avenue. Now, the proposed placement of the house has to comply with the building placement standards for transect zones. At this location, both Southwest 10th Street and Southwest 6th Avenue are local streets with a building placement requirement of 15 feet minimum and 20 feet maximum from the curb. On a corner lot, the street setback is applicable for both street frontage sides, meaning 15 feet minimum and 20 feet maximum distance is required along both Southwest 10th Street and 6th Avenue. As shown on the sheet, the placement on the Southwest 6th Avenue side is greater than the 20-foot minimum. The board may want to consider a modification of the existing zoning requirement for the building placement along Southwest 6th Avenue. See, the house is compatible in scale and character with the neighborhood. The proposed relocation is basically a shifting of the house on the lot. So it'll only change the general setting will only change in terms of its relationship with Southwest 10th Street. since it's proposed to be placed on the corner of 10th Street and 6th Avenue now. Obviously, care must be taken during the moving process to ensure that there's no damage that messes up its physical integrity. The house would be basically staying in its same location, remaining in the same neighborhood and the same historic district. So with that, staff recommends approval of HP 21-28 with the following conditions. The board consider a modification of the building placement requirement on the southwest 6th Avenue side of the relocated house, and care be taken to ensure that all character-defining features are adequately protected from damage or loss during the moving process. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And Craig, here's another one where do you have a particular number in mind for that southwest 6th Avenue side?
Yeah, I believe it was consistent with the 7 feet.
Okay,
And there again, that is being driven by the estimated distance to preserve the trees.
okay, any further board questions or comment? Okay, do we have a motion? Excuse me, public comment. Could I get public comment, if any?
Mr. Chair, no callers at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Move to approve HP 21-27
With the,
with the,
28.
Yeah,
or 28 with the 7-foot recommended adjustment.
And staff.
And both staff recommendations, including the other.
Second, Nicole.
okay, Mr. Simmons, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Hill,
I object.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Kyra Lucas,
Opposed?
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-2.
Just wanted to say thanks for your time and consideration, those items.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next item is the first item under new business. Legistar item 210045 concerning a multifamily development in University Heights Historic District North. Petition HP 21-17. Gary Anglin, owner. Certificate of appropriateness to construct a 2-building multiple family development located at 131 Northwest 9th Terrace. This building will be a non-contributing structure to the University Heights Historic District North. In just a moment. Okay, this This property is located in the University Heights Historic District North. The address here is 131 Northwest 9th Terrace. But it basically, lies between Northwest 9th Street and Northwest 9th Terrace. So it's a double frontage proposal. It involves the construction of 2 new multifamily buildings with a total of 8 units. Again, located between Northwest 9th Street and Northwest 9th Terrace on 3 vacant lots. You see the tax parcels there. There will be a 2-story building on the north end of the project with 4 units, and a 3-story building on the south end of the project that will have parking on the ground level and 2 units each on the 2nd and 3rd floors. Again, these will be new buildings and non-contributing structures in the district. You see the property location. University Avenue lies just to the south of this property, as does the Checkers and the Taco Bell are I'm not sure where they are, but they're both kind of south of this location. And you see 3rd Avenue running just to the north. The property has an urban 6 zoning designation. On the 3 lots total are about a 1/4 acre in land area. So the 2 pictures on the side with the notification sign, and then the 2 pictures at the top here are all pictures looking into the subject property. The street here is Northwest 9th Street. The picture down here in the corner is one of the 3 contributing structures that lie to the south of the subject property on 9th Street. So you see there's a house here on Northwest 9th Street, and then the next picture shows the intersection of Northwest 9th Street and Northwest 1st Place. So you have some additional pictures. This picture shows the next 2 properties on Northwest 9th Street moving north towards the subject property. Now the next picture is looking south down Northwest 9th Street at the existing contributing structures in the area, and then the vacant subject property off to the right. Over here, on the end here, is a view looking north, up Northwest 9th Street. At the contributing structures across the street, and then the single-family home just to the north of the subject property on the same side of the street as it is. Here's some views looking into the backyards of the contributing structures that are located on 1st Place. And here to the right, you've got a view looking south down Northwest 9th Terrace at the back of one of the contributing structures adjacent to the subject property, and the back of non-contributing multifamily apartment development on the west side of Northwest 9th Terrace. And you've got a shot looking north, up Northwest 9th Terrace, again at the back of the contributing structure, and then the apartments, and then just a couple other views looking into the subject property on the left-hand side of this picture, and then up Northwest 9th Terrace, and at the apartments across the street from the subject property. The next are some drawings that are in your backup. I believe the applicant is in the auditorium and will probably want to go through the drawings as part of his presentation. But you see this drawing in the corner here where north is to the left. So you're looking at this as if you're looking from Northwest 9th Terrace. So you've got a two-story structure on the north side of the property, and then the three-story structure on the south side of the subject property. The parcels, again, are currently vacant. They're urban 6. This is a architectural site plan. Again, north is to the left. The project involves the construction of 2 new multifamily buildings with 8 units. The 2-story building on the north, the 3-story building with parking underneath to the south. The development also includes a center driveway, which is located here. I believe the idea is to enter on Northwest 9th Street, and you'll be able to go through and exit onto Northwest 9th Terrace down here. There's parking and an open courtyard between the 2 buildings. This is the ground floor plan showing a couple of the ground floor units, porch structure. This is on the interior of the proposal. And then you see more floor plans. This is the second floor plan. And there's the third floor plan is similar for the south end, which is over here to the right. This is a shot of the west elevation. The east elevation is similar. So north is to the left, and you're looking at this as if you were on Northwest 9th Terrace. You see the 2-story structure here, the 3-story here. You see this is where the drive-through, or where you would come out of if you're driving through the development. This is a view, sort of an interior view. You're looking at the courtyard south elevation. So you're in the middle of the development looking south towards the 3-story building of the development. So you've got the drive-through and parking area down here, and then the apartment units are on the 2 floors above. This slide also has some of the proposed stucco materials that are proposed. You've got some smooth proposed for the 3rd floor. You've got sort of a heavy laced stucco proposed for the 1st floor, and then sort of a medium version on the 2nd floor in between. These are just elevations of the proposed windows and the roof section. The roof is slated to be 24 gauge standing seam metal. And here are some just details of some of the features for the development, such as fluted columns. Here you see some details about the proposed handrail, which would be a steel pipe, I guess a 1/4 inch steel pipe. Just a section detail in the finish schedule. And some details of the entry porches. There are 2 entry porches located on the ground floor level for the development. So the project features covered concrete front porches for the ground floor units with steel handrails. There's fluted columns which support each porch. Other fluted columns support the walkway and the stairs. There are tall and narrow windows that are proposed. There's also a masonry wall that's proposed to be in front of the buildings on both the Northwest 9th Street side and the Northwest 9th Terrace side. And within those walls would be pieces of fixed glass and aluminum frames separating the 2 streets from the center courtyard to comply with the glazing requirements of the Urban 6 Transect zone. The roof would be a 24 gauge standing seam metal roof. The exterior would be a textured cement stucco exterior. The exterior walls are concrete block filled solid with concrete. Outside surface is cement stucco. The entry doors are hollow metal raised panel doors. The balcony doors on the 2nd and 3rd floors would be aluminum sliding glass doors. The windows would be single hung vinyl, the Shoreline series from Vinyl Window Technologies. There's information here about the overhang and the soffit. The footings are continuous concrete. The foundation walls would be concrete block covered with stucco. The front porches are all concrete, as well as the walkways between them. The porch columns are fluted concrete. And you have an asphalt driveway and parking spaces. There'd be 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks running along the adjacent streets in conformance with the Transect zone requirements for this location. So these are just the new construction guidelines for the University Heights North Historic District. The first talks about rhythm of the street, where you typically look for the careful placement of buildings to maintain the building patterns of each district. However, in this particular area of the district along 9th Street and Northwest 9th Terrace, there is no real rhythm or real building pattern to emulate for the new proposed buildings. The 3 contributing structures to the south are side by side. On the east side of 9th Street, across from the proposed new buildings, they would be facing the backyard of 2 other contributing structures that face south onto the Northwest First Place. A contributing duplex further north on 9th Street does front onto the street. Then on the west side, on Northwest 9th Terrace, the non-contributing apartment structure does not have any entrances that face the street. There are also no sidewalks along either street adjacent to the subject property. But the rhythm of the footprint of the new construction will be generally compatible in scale and spacing with the historic contributing buildings and the non-contributing multiple family buildings along 9th Terrace. As far as the setbacks, in Urban 6, the minimum distance from the curb for a building is 15 feet. The maximum distance is 20 feet. The standards also require a 5-foot landscape buffer, the 5-foot minimum sidewalk width, and a 5-foot building frontage area. Now, as far as the height, the 2-story portion of the proposal is on the north because the adjacent contributing structures on 9th Street going towards 3rd Avenue are all 1-story. So it was felt that the 2-story would be more compatible with those 1-story structures. And also the guidelines indicate that new construction should not be more than 1.5 stories taller than the contributing structure. Now on the south, the adjacent contributing structure right next to the subject property is a 2-story structure. So the 3 stories would meet the requirement as far as the height adjacent to contributing structures. It would be a 3-story height at about 38 feet along both street frontages and along the southern property line adjacent to the 2-story contributing house. And on the north side, the height would be about 29 feet to the peak of the roof, as it's adjacent to the 1-story contributing structure. The structure does maintain a relationship of entrance elements and porch projections to the street. A porch is proposed for the east and west side elevations, providing access to a first-floor condominium unit on each side. As far as walls of continuity, the transect zone design standards will help to see a continuous facade that steadily defines the public street, which is applicable in this more urban type of transect, being an urban 6. Now, in University Heights North, the building scale has traditionally been relatively small, with 1-story residences, low-pitched roofs, regular openings and details that keep the scale small. The proposed new structure is bigger in scale than the typical structures in adjacent structures in terms of massing and size, but it is more compatible in scale to recent new construction in the area. The orientation of the proposed structures to the street is compatible with the immediate area. The subject property includes a double frontage lot, similar to the double frontage lots to the south, which are developed with contributing structures. The backs of these homes face Northwest 9th Terrace and across the street from the back of one of the apartment buildings to the west. Both the proposed east and west elevations will provide porches for the 2 ground floor units, as well as balconies that will face out towards the adjacent streets. The proposed windows are compatible with windows on other buildings in the vicinity. And due to the varied architectural styles in University Heights, there's a broad range of materials used on historic buildings, including brick, wood siding, wood shingles, stucco, cut stone, and chert. Roofs also use a range of materials, including asphalt shingles, asbestos shingles, crimped and standing seam metal, tiles, and stone. So the new construction had to consider looking at the variety of materials used on nearby historic structures to pursue compatibility at the neighborhood level. And the proposed buildings include a variety of materials, including concrete, metal roofs, and stucco walls. So with that, staff recommends approval of HP 21-17 with the following conditions: that the windows utilize the simulated divided lights grill for the grill pattern or actual divided light grills for the chosen window. Provide information sheets for the proposed windows, doors, and roofing material. And then notify staff of any changes during construction. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I believe the applicant is in the auditorium wanting to present.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Anglin, would you like to speak to the board?
I'm Gary Anglin.
Could you stand in front of the microphone?
Yes. I'm Gary Anglin. I'm the owner and designer of the project. This is right behind Checkers and Taco Bell. There are a few frame houses right behind those fast food restaurants. These houses are not in very good shape. They're in a little better shape than the first house we saw tonight that's getting demolished, but they're probably 40s and 50s, I'd say, Jason, and just clapboard siding and nothing redeeming here. On going up to 3rd Avenue, there's one stucco house, single story, and it's one that's 2-story structure there. What we have here is a 4-plex, 2 units above, looking north. If we could look at the cover page, Jason. On this cover page, on the left, we're looking at a 4-plex, 1, 2, 3, 4, turning to look south. It's the same 4-plex, raised 1 story. It's the same concrete porches that are 7 feet out, 25 or 30 feet long, large porches with 4 columns in front. They're the same buildings. One is elevated into a 2nd and 3rd floor. Sergio is with us by Zoom tonight with the EDA. He's advised me on the site plan and tells me that I can get 3 or 4 more units by way of density on this project. When I first started designing this and putting a building across the entire site and having a 2nd and 3rd story with the entire 1st floor being parking, because that's what it would take, I didn't like the look of the project. Although this is close to University Avenue, this is back a couple of blocks, and it's got an old-time feel to it, but it's not massive. It's not high density to me. So I scaled it down and ended up with an inner courtyard. So this is 2 buildings separated by some open space. This is 8 units when I believe the density for this zoning is 12 or 13. If we could look at the sheet 2. The drive-through, as Jason pointed out, is straight through, but the buildings are on the left and the right. If you'll see you can see the outline of the 2 units on the north side to the left. On the right side, it's a dotted line. Okay, in between, there is walkable area. In the center of this open space is a stairwell. This is a concrete stairwell, and you go up, and there is a covered walkway between the 2 buildings. Concrete, ornamental steel handrails. The walkway is covered with a roof structure, and then between this covered walkway to the exterior of the project are a couple of parking spaces. There are 10 total parking spaces, by the way. And then there's some green space. There's a green space behind the parking. Here. This is the center walkway. Coming out towards the street, between the street, which is out here, Okay, well, you saw the 10-foot wall. Let's look at the front of that. Let's look at the side. Jason, if we could go to the side elevation, sheet 4. On the left side, you see a fourplex. On the right side, you see a fourplex. In between, everything you see in between is beyond. It's over that wall. I don't get it, Dot. I don't get this. The area that is in the center, those columns, are behind the exterior 10-foot wall. Can you picture it? Okay. Then there's a connecting roof between the two buildings, so you can walk back and forth between the two. There are balconies coming out towards the street. There's sliding glass doors on the second and third floor. The roof is a 512 steep slope. There's a 30-inch overhang, which is fairly wide. There is a middle band that goes at the floor level, at the second floor level, and the third floor level. That horizontal line is a feature we'll look at in just a moment. While we're on this sheet, many of the pieces of glass are tall and narrow, as they are also on the front elevation, because we're looking at the side. You drive through this project, turn and look north, and you'll see the front of this project. You turn and look south, and you see their front walls and the porches. Beyond the 10-foot wall, in the center, in the covered walkway, at that covered walkway, at the sides of the stairs proper, not the walkway, but the stairs, but the side of the stairs, there's a wall. This is a glass block wall. You can see it in the center going up. It's the only glass block on the project, but there are historic examples of glass block from the period of which I am looking at here is the 20s or 30s. There are 3 textures of stucco that will be used: rough, medium, fine, all with slightly different colors, all separated by this horizontal band. And let's go to page 6, Jason. Okay. The windows will have the framing in between, a detail across the top, a sill that protrudes. There is the horizontal band beneath the window. We'll see a profile of it in a moment. And on the right, you can see a fluted column in elevation. And at the very top of the column, a little detail curved at the top of the columns. Then we should go to the next page, which is sheet 7, which these are details of the columns. and the center band. The center band is on the bottom, second from the right. On sheet 8, next page, an example of some older handrails. This is not a typical handrail with just some vertical steel pieces. It's got the circles and a nice detail there for an older type, wrought iron type architecture of a handrail. An example of the balcony is on the right. Jason mentioned 2 side porches. Now, within the courtyard, when you're looking at the 2 buildings, all of the units have a long porch with the columns. But street side, there are 2 side porches, and they are on the condos on the north side that are on the ground. Those are the only 2 condos that are on the ground level, and they're on the north side. Both of them have a side porch going out to the street, and that's what's on sheet 10. And they have those columns for the side porches are smaller versions of the etch columns that are on the front. This is scaled down, but they're the same design, type design. There's plenty of room between the structure and the wall and the street to have the required areas and to put the side porches and of course the public sidewalk. The project has enough glass on it to meet the city's guidelines for the amount of glass, and you know that a 10-foot high wall is peppered with glass all the way down it. That's 6-foot high glass. The pieces of glass that we're looking at are 2'4" by 6 foot. And the front of the buildings, look on sheet 5, please, Jason. Those top 2 floors, if you imagine that on the ground, is what the north side looks like. This is showing the side with the parking underneath. But you see the tall, narrow windows on the front. There's 12 of them right there, and then 12 on the other side. You see how long the porch is. The porch is as long as those 4 columns there. And you see the balconies off to the sides. The roof will, I'll select a color. It will be a color, probably not Galvalume, but it may be a coral in color. And then I'll have some color for the stucco. In geometry, in the bulk shape, not in details, but in the shape of this, it is similar to the outline of my project at a couple of blocks from the Thomas Center, which is at 2nd Street and 10th Avenue. If you've seen the 2-story condos that are there. Those are the Livingston Square condos, and they are right down from CVS. I think this will be compatible with the area. I think its scale fits in better than trying to get more units. I like the idea of the centered walkway. I think that works for this area. It's open inside there. But yet it is an inner courtyard because, except for the drive-through, there is a wall. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, questions of the board or comments?
Gary, it appears that these are largely casement windows.
These windows are single hung.
Oh, okay.
I have used and like casement. Could be talked into. I have them on another building, and I've just used them, and they look nice and they work well. So I would consider casement. I haven't used them on this taller window, but now see there are a number of the 4-foot high windows, and I have considered those for the shorter windows. Now, were you referring to the taller ones too?
Yeah, the general proportion of the groups of three suggest a casement with muntins in the upper half of the casement.
Mm-hmm.
It occurs to me that at the ground level, you may have an egress issue with the width, with a 2-foot width. But other than that, I think it comes off whether you're doing single homes or casements. Visually, I think it works.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comments or questions?
I just want to know why you went with a 3 instead of 2 windows that were wider, side by side, that be a bigger window that we would find more consistent with the windows in the neighborhood.
Because the 3 are all over the historic district. I have on my house. In fact, I have 47 windows in my house in the duck pond. And all around me there are examples of 3s. But yes, you would get more with 2. You know, there would be more glass, but then that pattern with with a jam in between is part of the look of that period. And it makes for some nice detailing, as we saw on that sheet 6, Jason.
We have them before us.
Pardon?
We have the sheets before us.
Okay.
They're on our computers.
They're what?
They're on our computers.
Okay. Okay, very good.
I want to comment on the use of the stucco that was depicted, that the idea of going from the rusticated to an intermediate and a fine is, I think, well taken.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd like to thank you for a comprehensive presentation, first of all.
You're welcome.
And then I really like the idea of that glass or the that glass wall that you have and the openness of that courtyard.
Yes.
And, I mean, it is massive. Fortunately, as explained, on the one side, you went double, on the other side, you went triple, so I mean, it fits with the guidelines, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Ready for a motion? Let's see if.
Public.
Yeah, let's see if there's any public. Is there any public comment?
No, sir, no callers for this item.
Okay.
Move to approve. HP 2117 with staff recommendations.
Second?
Okay. Mr. Simmons, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. Bill Warner,
Aye.
Kyra Lucas,
Aye.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Okay, the next item under new business, register item 210046. This involves fencing. Petition HP-21-42. Nestor Perez, owner. Certificate of appropriateness to gain approval of installed fencing along the side and rear of a single-family dwelling located at 236 Northwest 3rd Avenue. This building is a contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District. In just a moment. Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is the house at 236 Northwest 3rd Avenue. The applicant is seeking the approval of a fence that has already been installed, but it was installed without receiving a COA. And it's a wooden 6-foot-tall fence. The fence begins at a point almost 4 feet from the front wall plane of the house. It provides privacy to the backyard for the family on the west side and in the rear of the property. The applicants are looking for some usable private family area in the backyard. So this map shows the location of the subject property. You see it faces onto Northwest 3rd Avenue, but you also have Northwest 3rd Street here on the west side. The zoning is RC, residential conservation, and it's about 0.20 acres in land area. So you see the pictures here, so you see the notification sign, and this is a current picture right here you see between the house and the do not enter sign is where the fence starts, at least from the, about 4 foot back from the front wall of the house. The pictures with the automobile in them are old pictures showing what this looked like prior to the installation of the fence. Then you see the picture here in the middle of that same general area where the car was located. And you see the picture of the property now with the fence. And this picture here is from like 4th Street, looking south into the back of the property. So prior to the installation of the fence, folks had a direct view into the backyard of the subject property. So the house, it's an existing 2-story frame vernacular building. Aluminum siding, has a portico on the south center side of the building, a screened-in porch on the southeast with a bay, a brick pier foundation. The house has about 2,210 square feet of total floor area with 1,810 square feet of heated area. The house was built between 1903 and 1909, according to the Florida Master Site file for the property. Now, the property appraiser's office says it was built in 1930. It is a contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District. Here are a couple of other shots of the existing fence. You see it. This is like an alley, about 16 foot of right-of-way per the plat, as you can see on the site plan over here. And you see in color here, you see the location of the fence in relation to the side street and the alley, and then the vacant lot to the north of the alley. So the 6-foot tall wood picket fence does not extend into the front yard beyond the front wall of the house, but this property is a corner lot with a highly visible side and rear yard. The 2 sides of the fence on the west and the north are highly visible from the right-of-way. The wood fence for the west elevation is not more than 6 feet in height and is an appropriate material, being wood. The rear elevation fencing meets the historic guidelines for fencing because it is constructed of wood and is no greater than 6 feet in height. As indicated before, this is a highly visible corner lot, and the 2 sides of the fence on the west and north are highly visible from the right-of-way. Now, on this segment of Northwest 3rd Street, which is on the west side of the property, the east side of that street does not have a sidewalk. So the 6-foot tall fence is approximately 39 inches off of the back of the curb on that side of the street. Now, there is a sidewalk on the west side of Northwest 3rd Street in this area. Again, the fence does not extend into the front yard beyond the front wall of the house. And the wood fence on the west elevation is not more than 6 feet in height and is an appropriate material. Now, in the past, the board has heard discussion about fencing on corner lots in historic districts. You've heard several different types of design considerations for these situations. As stated earlier, on this segment of Northwest 3rd Street, the east side of the street does not have a sidewalk. The 6-foot tall fence is about 39 inches off of the back of the curb. So it's not butting up right next to the sidewalk and to pedestrians on that side of the street. The corner lot is on the northeast corner of Northwest 3rd Avenue and Northwest 3rd Street. Northwest 3rd Avenue is a major east-west route through the neighborhood from Northwest 6th Street to downtown, while Northwest 3rd Street is a way to get through the neighborhood from Northwest 8th Avenue to West University Avenue, meaning that this corner gets vehicle traffic as well as pedestrian traffic more than some other properties in this district. So the suggestion is the board should deliberate on the height issue of the fence located along the east side of Northwest 3rd Street. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition HP 21-42, but again, we understand the concerns with the highly visible corner lot. So the board should deliberate on the height issue of the fence on that side of Northwest 3rd Street. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I believe the property owner is in the auditorium.
Okay. All right, you have something you'd like to add?
Yes, I did get a couple. So this one was a kind of a gray area regarding the fence height, because I know with the highly visible areas, when they are adjacent to a sidewalk, it does obstruct some of the view there into the property. So this one, the issue was basically it abuts with Northwest 3rd Street, which the speed limit on there is 25 miles an hour. So most of the cars are kind of rushing through. On the north side, it does butt up to some residential parcels that I would imagine at some point in the future would be developed. So although highly visible at the moment, I don't know that that'll be the case, going forward down the line. I did also capture, and they're not included here, I did also capture some photos of some other houses in the neighborhood that I think are also highly visible that have a similar kind of setup with a 6-foot fence. I'm not sure if we have this camera set up, and then we don't. Okay, so I can kind of, if I can pass this. It is set up? Yeah. Oh, okay. Great.
Okay.
So these are just a couple that I took photos of.
Jason, if you want to stop sharing your screen, then we'll be able to see the overhead.
So this is a house that's basically on the corner of Northwest 4th Ave and Northwest 1st Street. It's a house that was renovated, I'm not sure how many years back, but you can see I think it's beyond a 6-foot fence that you have there. And so it also gives privacy to the backyard of that house. And the difference here as well is that this one actually does have a sidewalk running along it, whereas mine does not. Like I said, I have a Northwest 3rd Street with 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. This is one right on Seminary Lane on 5th Avenue. They also have a 6-foot fence on there, highly visible, and you also have a sidewalk there. And this one's kind of maybe a little kind of hard to tell. This is driving south on Northwest 3rd Street, and you can actually see my fence right down over that way. But this is also a 6-foot fence, similar setup where you don't have a sidewalk there. And like I said, you can see my fence actually a little further down the road, just past that intersection. So these are some items that I wanted to bring up because I didn't provide on there.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, and what was your name again for the record?
I'm sorry, Nestor Perez. I'm the property owner.
Okay, thank you. All right, questions or comments from the board?
I have a question for Jason. It says in this presentation something about the state of Florida's Department of Transportation and the guidelines for determining visibility of intersections. Is that something that we have to be concerned with, or something that needs to be addressed?
I don't believe that comes into play with where his fence is located. That's normally looking at the vision triangle right at the intersections. But this fence is not in the front, so I don't think that comes into play.
No. Okay. Anybody else?
I'll comment.
Sure.
I would not like to see the character of the fence. I'm not arguing the 6-foot appropriateness of it. The character of the fence is much more contemporary than the ones that you appropriately depicted. So I would not like to see that be precedent setting. I think it would be more in keeping with our objectives if the south side of the 3rd Street part of the wall were at the northwest corner of the building as opposed to the southwest corner. I don't know if that hedgerow is still behind there. There wouldn't be any room left at all if there is.
Are you saying on that front corner there? If it
Yeah,
was on
you're
the
right
back
there
corner?
at the front corner.
Mhm.
If you were at the back corner,
Okay.
I think that would be a more successful location in terms of
Okay.
the presentation of the house.
Yeah.
And how it addresses the street. Plus, from a performance point of view, having a 6-foot wall 4 feet from the house is,
I understand.
a little awkward, I would think.
Yeah, the design style is more in kind of seeing a bunch of the newer fences that have been erected there. I think Kurt has been building some houses and most of his privacy fences have that band along the top. And so that was basically the kind of the design idea with that. But as far as moving it back, yeah, that would still allow, nice little private yard space right there on the corner. It is the only kind of outdoor area that we do have, so that was the reason with going with the 6-foot fence as well, just because you have that traffic that, just races through. But moving that, I think, back to that corner shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, good. Okay. Anybody else? Any public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no callers for this item.
Okay. Danielle?
If the fence were originally at the back corner, given that it's not a corner lot, would 6-foot height be available? Would the 6-foot height still be approvable if it was for the back corner? The south side of the house, can you put the map up?
This one?
All right, that northwest 3rd Street side,
Their street side, okay.
the fence going all the way back, because it's on a corner lot, would that 6-foot fence be in compliance with the height that's allowed without, them coming to us? Or would it be lower because it's a corner lot?
It's a good question, because that's technically the rear yard.
Right, but it's on a corner lot, so does that change what would automatically be a staff approval? If it was at the back corner of the house, would it be compliant with the staff approval at 6 feet? Or would it need to be the 32 inches because it's solid?
I mean, my reading of this document is it's supposed to be 48 inches.
Yeah.
If it's
so I
open,
mean,
right.
And I wouldn't mind that band being removed and the top being changed if that's like a possibility, because, the things you showed us, once again, were like pickets rather than the solid band. But yeah, I don't think that any of this is in compliance.
Right, well, I want to make sure what I believe is correct. I believe that if for this to be approved by a staff approval, with it being not open, it would need to be the 32 inches.
Or 48.
48 if it was open, but it would be 32 if it continued to be So this is more than, so this is more than 32 inches higher than it's supposed to be, correct? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Was it that the case whenever it was next to an adjacent, I understand it being on a corner lot, but was that not when there was an adjacent sidewalk? Or it obstructed?
Has nothing to do with the
That's
sidewalk.
nothing. Okay, okay, just want to understand.
If there was a house next to it, then it could have been the 6 foot tall.
Right.
But there's no house and there's a street, because the street's there, it's supposed to be, is it 32 or 34 inches?
36?
36.
36.
It would have been 36 inches high,
Okay.
and the staff could have approved it. But you're almost double the height that it's supposed to be
Right.
for a staff approval, and so that's what the concern is
Why
here.
is it? Okay.
Plus it's a little bit too forward, it should have been on the back corner of the house going back. but
Gotcha, okay.
Still, that should have been 36 inches high.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Nestor, can you put up a couple more of your examples that you
Sure.
gave?
Yeah.
Because, once again, do you have one that looks like this? Because I remember this one with
Yeah.
the pickets.
Yeah, I didn't get those because I guess in these photos that I was bringing, I was just trying to show, something similar where you have full privacy fence on the backyard in a highly visible area, and with these ones, you had a sidewalk. So I didn't focus on the other ones that had the ban. Like I said, there's probably at least, 6 properties that now have a similar fence, and that's basically kind of what I replicated in that. But yeah, these examples are just the focus here where, okay, the back of a home.
And they're all in your neighborhood in the
Yes.
historic district, and we've all approved these, I would guess?
I don't know if we
I don't-
approved these fences or not. I'm wondering if these fences were approved or if they were just put up and nobody noticed.
Yeah, just like yours.
We had not approved that style of fence.
With the band, yeah.
But also these other fences that are being used as examples. Right, but I'm not sure if these other fences that you're using as examples ever came to us. They might have just got put up without going through the appropriate
Or
process.
staff approvals.
Or staff approval. Right.
You need to find a fancy carpenter to help you make it look pretty.
Yeah, no, I think that something along just the typical, more traditional spike picket. So, yeah, that was one.
Generally, you will find that the pointed top or dog-eared or several of the kind of Gothic top are common to the area that have been there for some time. But, and I don't know, from what I have seen of the type of fence you have, the way it is set is part of the structure, and you couldn't just take the top off and take off the band without.
Yeah, well, with this one, they were regular dog ear pickets with the band just overlaying on top, so yeah.
It's a pretty easy fix.
To remove the band, yes, it's just basically unscrewing the band.
Well, great.
Yeah, I think that'd
Yeah.
make everybody happy if we did that.
That'd be very desirable.
Okay?
10 or 20 years from now, when the wood wears out, come to us before you build another one.
No.
We talked about,
Yeah,
bringing it
yes.
to the back corner.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we had, any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair, no callers at this time.
Everybody that has a backyard on a street in this neighborhood can put up a 6-foot fence.
Not necessarily, because this is an after the fact.
That's my concern, that we're setting a precedent.
That-
It is after
If
the
we
fact, but someone's
specify-
gonna complain about it.
That'll be in the motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Move-
Let me, please forgive me, so that's the precedent we're setting, so let me do this now, and then I'll come and ask for forgiveness, is what we're saying here.
Yeah, no, that's,
It's a case-by-case situation.
yeah.
But
Okay.
but the way this house is set up, unless they get a unique situation, they really don't have a private backyard.
No, I understand that. Yeah, I get the situation that you want a private yard, and I would too. My concern is that now we're telling people, oh, we'll just do it, and then we'll give you an okay after. That's my concern. Because that's what's happening all over the place. Everybody's putting up fences and then they're asking for forgiveness, or just not, and hoping that nobody comes and slaps them.
All right, go ahead.
Move to approve HB 2142, noting that this is a unique condition, and that the owner has agreed to seek to modify the top of the fence to make it visually more compatible with those fences that are established in the neighborhood. And this was a one-time case basis.
And moving the fence.
And
At the rear, front to the
and
rear corner.
moving the element of fence that is currently at the southwest corner of the building to the northwest corner of the building.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Simmons, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. Bill Warner,
Aye.
Kyra Lucas,
Aye.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, the next item, register item number 210047, petition HP-21-43, Evan Chance, owner, certificate of appropriateness to re-roof an existing single-family dwelling with a metal roof located at 616 Southeast 4th Avenue. This building is a contributing structure to the Southeast Residential Historic District. In just a moment. Pull up the- Okay, Mr. Chairman, this property is 616 Southeast 4th Avenue. As a contributing structure in the Southeast Residential Historic District. It's built in 1933 per the Alachua County Property Appraiser's Office and built in circa 1925 per the Florida Master Site File for the property. The applicant is requesting approval of the re-roof from shingles to a 26-gauge standing seam metal roof over underlayment in polar white, manufactured by Tri-County Metals. Property you see here on Southeast 4th Avenue, just west of Southeast 7th Street. It's actually sort of right across from Collie Blunt's house, which you all might be familiar with. The property is approximately 0.22 acres in land area. So the existing dwelling is one-story bungalow. It appears on the 1928 Sanborn map. It had been severely altered by the enclosure of its porch and the addition of asbestos shingle siding. But since then, the porch has been opened back up. The house is a wood frame structure on a brick pier foundation with lattice work, a gable roof with a secondary gable for the porch, and a chimney on the east wall. House is approximately 1,338 square feet of, of, of heated space and 1,482 square feet of total area. Some pictures of the area. You see the house, the notification sign, the house to the west of it. In this picture, that is a metal roof for that house. So there are metal roofs in the neighborhood. Now, the proposal under consideration with this application is the installation of a 26-gauge polar white standing seam metal roof over underlayment, manufactured by Tri-County Metals. It's a 1-inch standing seam metal roofing system. The work involves removing the existing drip edge and flashing and installing Rex underlayment over the existing shingle roof, installing deck-type plumbing boots and valley metal on ridge ventilation and ridge cap, replacing plywood if necessary, and using dimensional lumber if necessary. The board approves metal roofing on a case-by-case basis, depending on the style and use of the building. Recommended metal roofing for most buildings in the historic district is a 5V crimp or standing seam metal. The spacing of these roofs is more sympathetic with historic metal roofs, and exposed fasteners are not as numerous or visible. The proposed standing seam metal roofing is compatible with the neighborhood. These are just some product information sheets concerning the standing seam panels and the color choices available. The polar white is located here. And to my eye, it looks a lot like light gray. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition HP-21-43 with the condition that the finish be Galvalume or a light to medium gray paint finish, with the understanding that, at least in that slide, the polar white, which is what the applicant has chosen, looks like light gray on the color sheet. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Is the owner present? Or anybody representing the owner? Okay. Anybody have any questions? Comments? I do. I have a question about the color of it, because I've seen white roofs before and they don't fare well in our climate because they get dirty very fast. And it's not a historic look, is my other concern.
I can attest to the coloring there. This isn't, I'm not related to this, but polar white is a pure white. It is not light gray as depicted on that color sheet.
Okay. Yeah, because I have seen white roofing before and it doesn't do well at all.
Yeah, most paint tends to stain due to the porousness of the actual paint itself, and it gives the mildew or algae a place to actually grab hold and live. So almost any color is likely to stain as long as there's any sort of shade.
Yep. All right, I just thought I'd point that out because.
Are you gonna make a recommendation for a different color, or are we gonna continue it? Or deny it? Well, we got choices.
We could recommend a color, and that way Jason can handle it as a staff approval at that point, I guess. Gray or Galvalume would be what I would say. Finish.
Yeah, I think we ought to stick with it.
Yeah. That's staying with the historic appearance too.
Yes.
Unless they want to come back again for another color, but not wait.
Well, let's give it a shot. Let them continue.
Well, given the situation with continuances, yeah, I hesitate to do that. Give them the option of having those two, or they can come back.
Yeah.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion then? Well, actually, let me see, is there any public comment? Well, we just had some.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt. We do have the owner, Mr. Chance, on the line. If we
Okay.
can go ahead and get him into the conversation.
okay.
Mr. Chance, you may go ahead.
Hi, yeah, this is Evan Chance, the owner of the property. So the biggest reason why we chose that polar white was because of the energy savings that it promises. But I mean, I understand that if the commission doesn't want to introduce all these different colors, like we'd be happy to change it to galvalume or whatever color is, in line with what the neighborhood wants to go with.
Good, then I'll make a motion.
Okay, I think Galvalume's probably the most historic appearance, and it's historic. And will actually give you the best reflectivity on it. The problem with the white, our concern is it gets dirty and looks very bad very fast in our climate. And this would stay with the historic appearance we're after. Okay?
Okay, I mean, in that case, we'd be happy to go with the galvalume.
Okay, all right.
Move to approve HP 2143. It's was a galvalume finish.
Is there a second?
Second?
Lots of seconds. Okay.
Danielle?
Ooh.
Danielle seconded.
All right, thank you. Okay, the roll call vote. Kyra Lucas,
Opposed.
Danielle Massey, Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda, Register Item 210048, Petition HP-21-49, Carson James, Witten Roofing Company, agent for David Harlos and Darcy McMahon, owners. Certificate of appropriateness to re-roof an existing single-family dwelling with a metal roof located at 618 Northeast 9th Avenue. This building is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District. In just a moment. Okay, this proposal, under this, to be considered is an application that would install a 5V crimp panel metal roof over 1x4 purlins. The proposed roofing is galvalume in color and is manufactured by Tri-County Metals. The location of the property is at 618 Northeast 9th Avenue, which is a one-story stone bungalow that was built in 1926, according to the County Property Appraiser's Office, in circa 1928 per the Florida Master Site File. This is a contributing structure in the Northeast Residential Historic District. The yellow highlights the property location. It's just a block north of Northeast 8th Avenue, right off of 6th Street. It's single-family zoning, RSF3, on about 0.28 acres of land. So the existing single-family dwelling is a one-story stone bungalow built in either 1926 or 1928. It appears on the Sanborn map of 1928. The house is a masonry structure with stone and rubble for exterior materials, a masonry wall foundation, a stone columns porch, a porte cochere, a stucco-covered chimney, and a hip roof with a hip cross gable secondary roof structure with composition shingles. Building's approximately 1,949 square feet of heated space and over 2,500 square feet of total area. And again, it is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District. Here's just an aerial view where you can sort of get a better shot of the scope of the roof. The principal structure has a hip roof that right now is somewhat screened from the street because of the amount of trees in the front yard, such that it is not easy to see the full surface of the roof from the right-of-way. The installation of a metal roof on this structure will have very little visual impact on the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed metal roofing is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. However, in light of recent discussions among board members about the suitability of 5V crimp metal roofs on architecturally significant homes in the Northeast Residential Historic District, the board should discuss how suitable this style of metal roof is for this particular structure. Again, here's just the product information from Tri-County Metals concerning the 5V crimp panel system that's being proposed. The proposal would install the 5V crimp panel roof over the 1x4 purlins. There would be galvalume in color. The board approves metal roofing on a case-by-case basis. We typically recommend metal roofing for most buildings in the districts as either 5V crimp or standing seam metal. Principal structure has a hip roof that's somewhat screened from the street because of the amount of trees in the front yard. But because of the location in the Northeast Historic District, the board should discuss whether they feel the 5V crimp is suitable for this particular structure. So the staff recommendation is approval of HP 21-49 with the condition that the finish be galvalume or a light to medium gray paint finish. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I believe the roofer is online and available to either present or answer questions that you might have as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Okay. Questions or comments of the board of the roofer?
So our main purpose to go 5V with this structure is for energy efficiency on top of purlins with a radiant barrier. And we are using a radiant barrier that is composed of 100% aluminum. It's not the double bubble or bubble wrap that is kind of unanimous within the industry. It's actually something far better and something that will kind of withstand and last the age of the metal roof. But again, it's primary for the ability to provide that air gap. Standing seam doesn't allow open framing unless it's secured to metal. Currently, all of their engineering is for steel buildings. But even with that being said, if we were to do a site-specific engineering for a standing seam roof over 1x4 purlings, given the screw placement of 10 inches on center, you're essentially limiting your air gap to about 7.5 inches versus 16. So it really reduces the amount of air gap that you have, and it doubles the amount of lumber, and it's just a substantial increase in cost. And you lose a lot of the surface area of the radiant barrier as well, because you essentially almost have a secondary solid deck on top of the existing deck.
Okay.
And we did look into a floating mechanically seamed panel, but needless to say that it was just simply cost prohibitive in this scenario.
Well,
I don't know about all that, but yeah, it remains the case that 5E crimp is shed roofing, not primary structure roofing. So there's a problem. Yeah, it's hard to believe that the alternatives to 5E crimp just don't exist on a competitive basis.
Well, I'm presenting the facts. Standing seam requires 10-inch on center fastening, so you do essentially, cut your air gap in half, and the engineering is not presently available. You do have to have site specific for that. It's not something that's provided. And a floating standing seam panel, material cost alone is almost double because it's only offered in a 24 gauge metal, and the clips themselves are exorbitantly expensive to float the panels. And it only provides a 1/2 inch air gap on top of that. So you really minimize the energy efficiency.
all right.
I mean, if you have other suggestions about how we can create this air gap and create an energy efficiency home, I'm more than willing to take that into account. But I've done my research on this, and I've looked through it, and I cannot find another way that is cost effective. Standing seam in itself is typically somewhere between 30 to 40% more than a regular metal roof, generally speaking, because it's labor intensive if it's done right. But then in addition to doubling up the amount of 1x4s used with the cost of lumber and everything else, it's not realistic in terms of cost for what you're getting. And I've been through this before. We know 5V has been around for over 170 years. It is one of the oldest forms of roofing. And I know in Gainesville, due to possibly, not knowing the facts and not being educated in the 1920s, but it is a superior type of roofing to asphalt shingles. Despite how it may have been used previously, it was in fact used for the time period.
Okay. All right. Any further questions of the board? And this is Galvalume, yes. Okay. Somebody like to make a motion?
And I do have side-by-side pictures of a 5V next to standing seam that kind of shows that it's a remarkable similarity, and it's really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, no, we've studied it before. We're good. Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, did you open it up to public comment?
Not yet. All right. Any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair, no callers for this item.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to deny petition HP 21-00049.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that motion. I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Mr. Simmons, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the motion is to deny.
Hang on just a second. Danielle?
What is that? I would really like to know, like, what direction to go with, because we've gone in two different directions with this. So to do a vote on this is really difficult. Where does the board stand with this 5E crimp issue?
Also, I think the applicant needs an explanation that we're gonna deny this. I mean, based upon the significance of this structure.
Yeah, I think there's more information that's needed on this. 'Cause,
What additional information would you like?
not from you, more so on a board's position, because we really haven't come to a concrete. We've approved some and we've denied others, and I need a little bit more of a firm position from the board where we're gonna stand on this from this vote and future votes, because it's not fair to the public for us to be kind of having something different on each time it's presented to us. So
The ones that we have approved were,
Do you want to turn on my bill?
yeah, the ones we've approved so far have been ones where the roof was very high, low pitch, barely visible, or for any other reason of very limited visibility. We did one on Third Avenue because the roof was very high and low pitch. We did one on 13th Avenue because it was basically facing the woods, very low visibility. This is a significant structure. It's one story, but it is really a gem in the neighborhood. And to put a shed roof on it, I mean, we might as well throw out any roof requirements we have to approve a shed roof on this property. I mean, I know and like the owners, but I can't support 5E crimp on that building.
And I've stated many times that I will no longer support any metal roof in a historic district at all, with the one exception of, was it 2 or 3 months ago, the building already had half a metal roof and half asphalt.
because of the historic precedent of metal, is that where you're standing with that? Thank you.
So the structure is a 312 pitch, which would be considered a low slope pitch. And currently the structure is not visible at all from the street. And even if the trees were cleared, you would be left with maybe 15 to 20% of the front of the structure visible, with the majority of the structure being contained to the rear and the side of the property. And historically, 5E was used in many applications, not just shed style, and I feel that's an inaccurate description of the material.
Okay. Matter stands that we have a motion on the table. So I think we need to go ahead and go through it. Okay? All right, Mr. Simmons, if you'll go ahead and give us roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the motion is to deny the petition.
Correct.
What was the criteria for the denial again?
5E crimp.
The fact that it's 5E crimp and not standing seam.
So, but you're not approving standing seam, you're approving a snap lock panel, which is not historically correct. So I'm missing the bridge here. Snap lock has no seam, no standing seam to it. It's just a different type of lap that clips together. It does not have a seam.
5E crimps appropriate.
5A crimp has a mechanical fastener on it, on the surface.
This snap lock also has a mechanical fastener. Historically, you would find 5V crimp. Historically, you would not find the snap lock panels that are being approved. They did not exist. And it's still a relatively new technology.
Roll call.
What's that?
Roll call.
All right. Mr. Simmons, roll call.
Kyra Lucas,
Aye.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
No.
Okay, motion passes.
Unfortunately, I will have to come back or take this to Tallahassee. I've been working on this project for over 2 years. I don't see the reasoning or the gap you're trying to bridge here between a product that is new versus a product that has historical context.
All right, thank you for your input. Mr. Simmons?
Just a moment. And the next item is Legistar number 210050. Petition HP-21-55, Tidewater Properties LLC owners, certificate of appropriateness to construct a single-family dwelling located at 425 Northwest 2nd Street. This building will be a non-contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District. So the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling. It's located within a recently approved minor subdivision. The structure would have about 1,206 square feet of living area, and the house would be a non-contributing structure in the historic district. The yellow highlights the location of the property. The lot is about 4,422 square feet of land area. This property is located just to the south of another COA that was reviewed and approved by the board a few months ago concerning a similar style home. This just shows the property location. You see on the left, that home that was approved and received a COA is under construction, and this is the general location of the properties. You see the Friendship Baptist Church located basically across the street. The view up here is looking to the south along Northwest 2nd Street, and then the view looking north. This is the recently reviewed and approved minor subdivision and boundary survey. The star location is the location of this subject structure. So this is the site plan. You see to the left, Northwest 2nd Street. North is towards the top. So they're proposing 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Now the required front yard setback in the DT or downtown zoning district is 15 to 20 feet. The applicants are indicating a 17-foot front setback from the curb to the front wall of the building. The required side yard setback is 0 feet in the DT zoning district. The house shows a 9-foot, 1-inch setback on the north side and a 9-foot, 2-inch setback on the south side of the house. The required rear setback is 0 feet with no alley, and the house is shown with a 30 to 34-foot setback to the rear property line. So on the left, you have the proposed rear elevation of the structure, and on the right, you have the proposed front elevation. The pictures below here shows the proposed back door to be used on the rear elevation. You see the proposed shingles. These would be Tamco 30-year dimensional shingles in rustic black. There'd be hardy fiber cement lap siding with exposed wood fascia and trim. To the right here, you see the proposed front door, picture of it. They would be using Plast Pro fiberglass exterior doors, my thin frame vinyl windows. There would be white single hung vinyl windows with 4/1 mullion arrangements. The porch would be made from 3,000 PSI concrete. The house would feature a raised monolithic concrete foundation. In the left and the right elevations. The proposed height is 17 feet 11 inches. So here you see the electrical plan, the floor plan, and the foundation plan. With that, staff recommends approval of HP-21-55 with the following conditions. Windows shall utilize the simulated divided lights grill for the grill pattern or actual divided light grills for the chosen window. Provide information sheets for the proposed windows, doors, and roofing material, and notify staff of any changes during construction. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and I believe the applicant may be in the auditorium.
Is anybody here for this project?
Yeah.
Okay, state your name first.
Britton Jones.
Okay.
Just willing to answer any questions you have.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board? Comments?
I comment, the muntins in the upper sash of the windows would be contextually more appropriate if it was, did not have the horizontal in it, was simply a 2/1 or a 1/1.
Okay, we did 1/1 on the home next door, so we wanted to do something different.
Well, if you want to do, 2/1, meaning the muntin in the center of the sash.
Yes, sir.
Would be more consistent with the neighborhood.
I understand, but just to bring you up to speed on something, we have to order these windows now 12 to 16 weeks out. So these windows are ordered. And what we did on this one, different than the last one, we took, y'all's advice on the last one. The windows on the front are the same size. And we used the top, the 4 up top, as opposed to making it identical to the one next door. So those are the windows we really need to use just because of the time frame it takes now with the long lead and materials.
Not much to say.
Yeah. Other comments?
The other houses in this area typically have a more slightly raised front porch. I can see that it's very, very slightly raised here. What's the
In the
measurement
application,
on
we
that?
put it'd be around 20 inches, 18 to 24 based on the topo around us, just like we've done on the other homes.
What's the standard in that?
Well, that actually looks like, the depiction looks like about half of that.
No, yeah, that depiction probably looks about 15 inches, which would be 19 inches up to the slab.
Well, my sense of scale, it's probably would scale out about 12 in that
Yeah, our
elevation.
steps are 7 1/4
Yeah.
per level, so that put us at 15. My slab is another 4 inches above my porch. So the actual house would be 19 inches.
All right.
My only other comment, and this again might just be a depiction thing, the columns on the front patio seem very thin compared to.
Posts.
They're just posts?
Posts. No,
Okay.
they're not columns.
Okay.
Posts.
Making sure. That's fine then.
My only comment, and, I'm not sure what you can do about it, because I'm sure you're pretty far along, but the front-facing roof is a gable and a hip combined.
Yes, sir.
That's not what you see in that neighborhood. You see one or the other.
I've got 13 pictures here of different roof lines just like that, Jay.
Historic houses?
They're in that neighborhood, old houses. I don't know if,
No, I'm talking about this
Yeah,
front.
right, yeah.
That's not really something you see over there much, is it?
I haven't, no, it doesn't. There've been some NHDC houses.
Yeah,
Want
no,
me
I'm
to just hand them
talking.
to you?
Hmm?
Want me to just hand them to you?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just curious.
What we did, the reason I did that one, Jay, like that is because last time you commented on the roof needs to match. So the back being a hip, we made the front a hip as well, or a portion of the front a hip.
Yeah, no, that was my comment last time. That was.
Yeah,
my
so I
comment.
was kind of taking your lead and advice on what the board wanted to see. That's why we kind of designed it like this, Jay.
All right.
The proportions are totally different.
All right.
No, he's not gonna understand the difference.
Okay.
This is a, well.
What I tried to do after the last meeting, so this one would go better, was listen to y'all, change the doors, make sure my windows were in proportion, that type of stuff, so that this would go pretty relatively easy for us all.
Well, in the future on the windows, what we're looking for is the divisions to either be square or vertical, not horizontal.
Yes, sir. Okay, I got you.
That's where we're coming from.
I got you. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other further comments or questions for the applicant? Any public comment?
No callers on the line, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'm disappointed. I was expecting one at least.
And just a cool final question, the railings are like 2x2s?
Yes, sir. They're what you see, and they're just black in this picture, so they would stand out.
Gotcha.
And y'all would see the railings as it existed. But they'll be white.
36 inches?
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Follow the code.
All right.
Actually, since you just said that, yeah, since you're not 30 inches above, you don't have a code.
Yeah, you're correct. I actually don't have to have them, but we like the way they look.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, no further comments? Then do we have a motion?
Somebody else can do it.
Anyone? Okay, Kyra.
I motion to approve petition HP-21-51 with staff conditions.
HP-21-55.
55, sorry. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
55 with staff recommendations.
Second?
I will second that motion, yes.
Okay. Thank you. You got the second, right, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, roll call then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Kyra Lucas,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Good luck. Is that the final one?
That's the final one, yeah.
Yahoo?
That's it.
Anyone got anything else?
Any comments from the board?
Any public comment? Okay. Then we are adjourned.